All right. Hello, engineering students. Hopefully, you guys just got done watching the Ed Puzzle video where it was talking a lot about what CNC is and kind of the intro to the G&M code that it's based on. Um, and so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to start with the your first program for G&M coding and CNC, and then and we're going to get that kind of set up today. So I'm going to intro it. You're going to do it, and then when we get to into next period, what we'll do is we'll come back and kind of translate the the paper that you've been working on here into actual G&M code that we can use to mill your initials. So what you're going to need right now is you're going to need this piece of paper. Yours will not have the A drawn on it. You're going to have to do that. But it should be double-sided. One side is for your initials. You'll make your initials, whatever they are here. They have to be 3 different initials. If you have a double initial, like your name has your first and last name start with A's, then you got to make your 2 letters look different, but we'll get into that in a little bit. And then I want you to take a second, go ahead and pause it right now, and you guys can actually start by copying what I have down here, and then we'll translate that into the points. Okay, so go ahead and pause it real quick, and then copy on your paper what I have here. This is going to be the example. And then on the other side, again, you're going to be using your initials, and we'll talk about some of the requirements for your initials in a second. So pause it. Okay, hopefully you paused it, and now you have this copied down. And now what I've done here is there's a couple things. I've highlighted it. You don't have to highlight yours, but I've highlighted mine so to make the lines a little bit easier. You can see that I have these points lettered, right? And there's going to be essentially in our milling machine, there's going to be a mill that's an 1/8 inch wide, and this represents the 1/8 inch wide end mill. And that end mill is going to start at A. It's going to come over A. It's going to go plunge down into the material, and then it will move through up to B, and then come down to C, and then it will actually pick up, and I'll show you how to code that, and then it'll go over to D, plunge back in, go over to E, and go across, and it will make that A. It's going to follow that A. So when you're planning out your letters on your side, keep that in mind for the order of the ABC. So you see how in mine it goes like A, D, and B? Well, that's because the plan is to go from A all the way up to B and make a straight line like you normally would in A, and then come back down to C, and then come back away from the part, and then go over to D, and then go down into D and into E, and then come back out, and then go over to F, and then complete my M. Okay. The reason I haven't completed the M is because I wanted to show you how how I like to make the curves in here. You don't have to do it this way, but it is helpful. It stops you from having some errors later on when you're programming your code. So I'm going to show you the M real quick and how to do a curve, because one of your requirements is that you have to have 2 curves. Okay, you need 2 curves or arcs. Okay. And so I'm going to have my 2 arcs or curves right here in my M. So what I'll do is I'm just going to get a straight edge, and I'm going to draw my curves out. Okay, so I got my ruler, or I'm going to draw my straight lines here. So it goes from F to G, and then I'm going to go down to H, back up to I, and then J. Okay. And again, it's a circle because you're talking about a drill bit, essentially, that is going to be spinning, and that's going to make a circle. Okay, so I'm going to make my line here. If you're somebody that does like the visual, of highlighting, you're welcome to do that. It is helpful to see what your toolpath is going to be. Certainly. And then let's get into what the how to do the curve. Okay, so I've placed H here purposely. So you'll notice that there's 10 spaces across here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so I've put H right in the middle of those two. Okay, so I've counted out 5 spaces. And then I've counted 5 spaces down for H. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the reason I did that is because I want my radius to remain constant between G and H, and then H and I. And what I mean by the radius remaining constant is if you imagine that this is a circle that goes all the way around, the radius or the center of that circle would be here, and I want the space between the center of the circle and H to be the same as the center of the circle as G. That's going to save you from having some errors later on if your radius is too small. It's not unfixable. It's just this is going to keep you from running into some errors later on. So if you want a flatter curve, you can have a larger radius. Very similar to the questions I was asking you in the skateboard project earlier, as far as the concave drop versus the radius of the concave drop. So anyway, so at this point I've got my 2 curves in there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start filling out my map. So you should also have this piece of paper, and I've pre-filled in my first 5 points in here, and those 5 points correspond with my A. So 0.3125 for the X. You can see these are my X values down here. A is 0.3125, B is 0.3125, and then X is 0.3125 and Y is 0.3125. And then B is going to be your X value of 0.6250, and then 1.6875. So I've done the work for most of A here, and then I would just keep going through my part as I got from F. So I would add F into there, that point, that X and Y value, that G, that X and Y value, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to be using those values and filling it out. So what you're going to do for me in this period is you need to have mapped out, and you're going to upload a photo of your initials, and then you're going to upload a photo of the coordinates for your initials into Google Classroom, and that's what's going to be due for the assignment. But you're going to have to do, I only showed you 2 letters here. You're going to have to do all 3 letters, okay? So all 3 letters have to be, and that brings us to our second requirement, which is all 3 letters. Letters must be different. Okay, so they've got to be different. If like I said earlier, let's say my last initial was A, I would have to do a different style A than this A. I want them to be different, just because of the nature of the challenge of the assignment. Okay, so you guys can flip it over, start working on your initials, map them out first, and then write out the X and Y values for initials, and that's really what's going to be due for this part of the assignment. You have to have this done for the next part of the assignment, and we're going to get into the G&M code reference sheet, and you have to have that done to be able to start using this in the next period, because we're going to be introing this in the next period. So make sure you're using your time wisely, finishing your work, and then hope you enjoy your day. Thank you very much.